Why does it always start off with a little snigger? Like, we must get more professional at this. Hello, everyone. Dave and Corinne from Do 3, just to go through our coaches Q&A. We look a bit squished into one side here, don't we? That's so you can see our motivational statement up on there. Have we got anyone watching? We've got one person watching so far. We are a little bit early, so let's probably, yeah, it might be me actually on the screen or something. Okay, so we'll just give it a couple of minutes, wait to see who else pitches up, and we'll start reading through some of your questions. We've got some bits and bobs and odds and sods on the WhatsApp group, but if you've got any more questions and you're watching, if you want to type the questions into the comments either on Facebook or YouTube, they should find their way through onto our screen here, and we'll go through those in turn. That's all we're doing during this session is just a Q&A. I'm going to do a video on the next block soon as well, but we're not going to cover that in this particular broadcast. Sounds a bit grand, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. All right, so okay. How long have we got? A minute.
I just mentioned for I think everybody who's on the regular commit squad program has got their training in now ready for Monday. Those of you who are on race specific distances and who are on recovery week this week, your plans are going in today ready for Monday. You'll already have the swims in because the swims are applied in blocks at the same time to everybody, so they may be slightly out of line depending on when you started. So you'll all have swims in for next week, but those of you who haven't yet got bikes and runs, they will be there by the end of today.
Promise. Okay, so there's quite a few more people watching now, so we'll start going through some comments that have popped up on the WhatsApp group. If you are there, then it's quite nice if you can just type something on the just say hello or something on the notes so that we can see it come through and make sure everything's connected up. So until we get somebody saying that, we're not quite sure if you're actually able to send us anything in. So if somebody's there and you want to type something in the comments, then do so, and it'll hopefully pop up our end, and we'll be happy and know we're actually online. Okay, so here we go. Hi, John. Thanks, John.
Morning, John.
You're connected up. That's all good. Right, so we're just going to scroll backwards actually and see what kind of questions we've got on the Q&A here. John, you happen to be the first one. So what's skull number 1 and skull number 2 and skull combo? I only know one skull. We can probably send a video or put a link to a video or something on that, can't we? We can do a demo here, but
yeah, I think we can probably link to one of the online videos for that. But
yeah.
Do a demo?
Yeah. So Corinne is going to voluntarily do a perfect demo. Are you going to stand up and do it?
Yeah, I think I'll stand up.
Okay.
If you can still see me, because I'm a bit short.
You've suddenly gone down 2 feet.
You might be in the way now, Dave.
So we to move. Okay.
So the skull, the various different skulls are working on the catch element of the stroke and helping you to develop a feel for the water, feel the pressure of the water on your hand, and following that through all the way through the from the front of the stroke all the way through until you're started to push back at the back end of your stroke. So there's 3 different skulls that we use that are in your plans. The one that we use the most is right at the front end of the stroke, that's skull number 1. So your hands are out in front of you, in front of your shoulders, starting in front of your shoulders. So it comes sideways a little bit. You should be able to see. This is the point where your hand would spear in the position that you're in. I think the camera's a bit at the wrong angle.
your bad shoulder.
I'm in a slightly odd angle. Where you spear in, your shoulder is above your elbow is above your wrist, and your wrist is above your fingertips. So that's kind of the position. I'm not quite tall enough to
No, that looks all right. That looks all right.
And your hands are starting in front of your shoulders. You're turning your hands in towards each other, bringing them into the middle, and then out just wide of your shoulders. And it's just that action of just moving the hands in a slight figure of 8 motion, keeping in the front end of the stroke. If you feel like you're not going anywhere, which you can do quite often when you're starting this skull, it's very often because your elbows have dropped. And if your elbows are flat in the water, you'll just stay still. If your hands come up at all, again, that's quite a common problem, you'll actually manage to go backwards. So if you're not getting anywhere, just think about, getting those elbows up and getting those hands down and just sculling in and out. It's not scooping, you're not doing breaststroke. Your hands are like they're on a rail in front of you, just going out and in, quite quickly, but you're not going to move fast. The next one, skull number 2, is bringing the forearms down. So the forearms are in that vertical forearm position. Can you see from there?
Yeah, it just looks really awkward for them.
So still keeping the elbows high, still keeping that same action with your hands, but it's just the next part of the stroke. Skull combo is basically joining those together. So you're starting at the front, sculling your way backwards until your forearms are vertical, then bringing your arms forward, get those elbows up, and then work your way back again. It's really important that when you push through, you think about getting those elbows up above your wrists before you start coming back again. It's not just swimming breaststroke, and it's a real sculling action.
Can you maybe try and do that from the side so you can see from the side? Sorry.
Is about
yeah,
that
yeah,
position?
yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Out to the front, elbows up, scull your way back until your forearms are vertical. Then shoot your hands forwards, elbows back up, and get that nice position where your elbows are above your wrists and your wrists are above your fingertips. Then work your way back again. Okay?
Yeah, John said great, thanks. Perfect, John. Well done, Corey. That was yeah. Could see that perfectly well. So hopefully that answers your question on the sculling there, John. What else have we got in here? So another training question. Got a trail. Oh, this is from Maddie. Got a trail half marathon. Should be starting 12 weeks training next weekend. Am I okay to increase the length of the endurance run to build for it? Was hoping to keep a base of about 110k a week before. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, that should work absolutely fine. The overall training load for the Commit Squad program is not too high. So yeah, as long as you build that half marathon longer run up in a nice progressive manner, then you'll be absolutely fine, as you would do with any kind of training anyway. So yeah, just keep it nice and steady. Also, obviously listen to your body and see how your body reacts to the training. It may well be that you get a little bit tired, more tired on the bike or in the swim or whatever. So just be wary of that. You might need to kind of dial some of the sessions back, but you have to listen to your body on that. It will make recovery weeks even more important. Running is one thing that does kind of batter the body a little bit, so you do need to make sure that you get suitable amounts of rest and recovery, because I'm going to do a video on this as well. You get stronger when you recover. You don't get stronger when you're training. So if you don't have that recovery, then the progression and the improvements won't happen. So just really try and do that.
We had one slightly related to that one. I think it was from Abby earlier in the week about tapering for events whilst you're doing the training. And if you've got like a 10k race or something, a 10k running race at the weekend, what do you do with your training that week? Do you taper for it, or how do you adjust things on a race week?
Yeah.
Do you want to answer that one?
I wasn't listening to what you were saying. I was reading the notes.
You did actually answer it on the WhatsApp
did I?
group,
okay.
Talking about tapering for an event when you're within the program, so it's not you're not on a program that's tailored towards a specific event.
Yeah.
You just have an event within that time, and you want to know how to adjust things on race week. Yeah.
Well, it depends. Generally, for athletes that we will coach, if it's a standard distance race or anything shorter than a standard distance or shorter, we put very little taper in, because particularly if it's a training type race, it's not really an A race, so we don't put a huge amount of tapering in, because if we do too many training races and you taper and recover after each one, you lose a lot of training. So you can lose a good few days beforehand and a good few days afterwards. And in actual fact, if you do a standard triathlon, 2 to 3 hours for the race itself is kind of the equivalent to a long training day anyway, and you'd be doing that kind of thing a lot of weekends anyway, so it shouldn't be too much adjustments in there. But if you are concerned, and again, this it's different for different people. It depends on what kind of level you're coming from. If you're an athlete who's fairly new and fairly inexperienced, you are going to want to rest a little bit more. So you have to apply a little bit of common sense to that. And if any of you are individuals, want to ask specifically about your circumstances, as has happened this week, then that's fine too. But generally, the shorter event, particularly a sprint, you probably, if you're really concerned, maybe take the day off, maybe 2 days off before. But that's really it. Sometimes we find if people take too much of a taper, you can actually go into the race a little bit flat. So, for example, if you have what you consider to be quite an important standard distance duathlon or triathlon, you may want to take it easy for the kind of 4 or 5 days beforehand, and just kind of dial things back a little bit during. I'm losing my train of thought during that period.
Still doing something, but not.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, going to refresh me. Thanks, Corinne. So if you don't do anything for 4 or 5 days beforehand, then you go a little bit. You can go a little bit flat. So very often we'll get athletes to do a bit of a sharpener the day before, and just kind of get your body firing, get yourself kind of mentally and physically a little bit more prepared for what's to come. So it does vary for various people, but yeah, for more experienced athlete, the general rule is not a huge amount of tapering for standard distance events, and particularly for sprint distance events. Not really. If you're doing anything else longer than that, then sure, yeah, we have to put a bit more of a taper in. I'm not a huge tapering is important even for for middle distance and longer distances. So middle distance triathlon and long distance triathlon, obviously there has to be tapering for those. But I was coached, and I used to be put on a 3-week taper, and I found it was too much. And that's the feedback we get from athletes, is it's too much, and you're almost over rested, and you start to feel like you're detraining. And obviously there's a lot of psychology involved in sport, and if you feel like you're detraining, you feel like you're going into an event flat, then it can have a little bit of an impact. So we don't have as big a taper as some coaches might give you, if that makes sense. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Right, expert demo, John said. Yeah, expert demo.
Oh, thanks, John.
Yeah. What else have we got? We've had a few comments about training zones and not sure how to set them up and bits and bobs like that. All I'll say to you guys, as far as that's concerned, is there are videos out there. So it may well be that you didn't clock the videos in the Training Peaks training sessions as we've gone through. Normally in the early weeks, in the training plan, yeah. In the early weeks, there will have been like a little on any given training day, there'll be a little kind of additional box with notes, and it'll have how to set up your training zones, and there'll be a link to a video. So if you're not sure, then scan back through and have a look at those. Or if you go to our website, do3.co.uk/videos, the videos will be sitting there. All right, we need to sort them out. They're not in a great order at the moment, but there's not a huge amount of them. So have a look, and it should be pretty obvious which ones you need. So have a look through those videos. If you're not sure if you think your training zones are out, who was I speaking to? Kirsten yesterday. Kirsten wasn't sure about why her zones didn't seem to tie up with her what she was getting on the heart rate monitor. Well, we need to make sure that everything's set up properly. The training zones are set up and specific to you as an individual within Training Peaks. Otherwise, clearly, a lot of them are default zones, and they're just not going to mean anything. People's heart rates can be all over the shop. Some people have generally a high heart rate. Some people have a low one. Some people have a bigger range. Some people have a smaller range. So you've really got to get it dialed into your individual heart rate, and that has to be done by doing some kind of benchmark test, so that you can find out what your threshold is, and make some kind of calculations based on that. But that's what's all in the video, so they should be able to work that out.
It's the video. If you're looking for the training zones video, it was on week 1. So after your 4 leading weeks.
Right.
The following Monday, it was on that, but they're all on their videos page anyway.
Just scanning back through to see what else we've got in terms of comments and things. If any of you guys watching have got any questions, obviously just pop them on there. Let us know what you want to ask. Yeah, lots of this chat is about training zones and things. Halfway through. Yeah, not a huge amount more questions on there. Oh, what's this one?
I think there's a
Kate.
question about duplicate workouts using different devices.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Okay. So this comes up fairly frequently. This kind of question actually, and I'm seeing it more and more when people are having multiple devices running. So it may well be they've got a polar heart rate monitor, because we're giving out some of the what they call the little. Remember what they call the little polar things? Anyway, the little ones that we're using for Swim Squad. I don't know what they're called now. Polar Flow. Wear them under there. You can wear them under the hats, and they record internally. So we've got some people using those, so they're getting heart rate from that because they're using them, on the bike and on the run as well sometimes. And then we're getting Garmin or whatever watch device, and then we're getting kind of Apple, and we're getting Zwift and Strava, and all these kind of files are all coming in now. So we're getting multiple files for one workout. Clearly, that's good for data gathering. But what will happen is it will confuse the hell out of Training Peaks, because Training Peaks monitors your workload. So it'll think you've done multiple workouts in one day, and it will throw all the kind of training stress scores out. So you've got to be really careful with that. You need to try and narrow it down to one. The most important metric really for Training Peaks to track what's happening is the TSS score. So that's the training stress score. So TSS. So the best thing to do is to have a look at that, and in order to choose which one is the best one to keep, you need to have a bit of an understanding about what the TSS score is. And it's quite straightforward, actually. Well, semi-straightforward. So if you imagine, you get the maximum TSS points you can get for an hour is 100. So if you go absolutely flat out, your maximum effort is 100 for 1 hour. All right. So if you imagine, if you do a 30-minute workout flat out, you'd get 50 TSS points. If you did an hour's workout at kind of 6 out of 10 effort, say 60% effort, you'd get 60 TSS points. So you've got to try and estimate how many points roughly. It's fairly straightforward to do once you start to kind of get your head around it. How many training stress score points you're going to get for your workout. So if you've done an hour's workout and you've done some intervals, and you get one of the readings says 4 TSS points, clearly that's going to be no good. If another one says 200 TSS points, that's going to be no good. But there'll be one in there somewhere. You can kind of generally work out, well, I've done an hour's training, I've done 3 lots of 10 minutes quite hard. You probably end up with 60 TSS points for the hour or something like that. So there'll be one around about that point. It's a little bit of an estimate. So that's the kind of the one to choose. It's probably not massively obvious when I say it like that, but that's the kind of one you want to go for. If you've got something which is accurately tracking your effort level, so heart rate monitor on the run, run pace will sometimes do it as well, power meter on the bike. If you've got things which are more accurately measuring your training stress score, that's the one to use. That's the one to use. So if you use a power meter on the bike and you ride your bike for an hour, it will use the power meter reading to calculate your training stress score. And that'll be bang on, because it knows exactly what effort you've put in. And it knows how hard you've worked because you've programmed in all your training zones. So it knows where your threshold is. The system knows whereabout you're pitching it. So maybe
that's another reason why it's really important to get your training zone set up right, because otherwise you might get some very odd TSS scores.
Yeah.
If they're just using the default ones.
Yeah, and sometimes it's worth. I'm not sure if you get this on the basic Training Peaks package. I'm not sure if you can look at the dashboard, Sarah Jane. Don't know if you know that. Don't worry about it now. But so on the premium Training Peaks account, we'll just check and see if you can get it on the standard, i.e. non-premium one. Yeah, I think it's more the kind of little graph, isn't it, that we're looking for. So on the premium Training Peaks account, if you go onto your dashboard, you can actually see a graph, and it's got your, what we kind of call it, your fitness score. So it's effectively a blue line going up and down. And over the weeks and months, you can see your fitness rising and falling as you do your training. So it's worth keeping an eye on that, because if you get big spikes, big surges in there, it normally means there's a problem with the data. And there's one workout, it happens quite regularly, there's one workout, it very often seems to be a swim where you'll get 10,000 training stress score points, and it'll just throw the whole thing out. You need to go into those every now and again and just delete them and tidy it up. So you end up with a nice kind of, it's a bit of a jaggedy line, but you'll end up with a nice consistent rising and falling of the graph. That's what you should be looking for. This is, when I talk about the graph, it's probably best viewed on the desktop.
It's not on the basic
on
version. It's not available on the mobile app. I don't know whether it is on the
I wonder if
desktop version.
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. I should be able to drop into. I'll just go into Training Peaks a second. Right, let's just drop into Training Peaks and see if I can show you actually what I'm talking about. I think we will do a separate video about Training Peaks, because there's obviously a fairly limited. I won't look at my training program because there's nothing in it. Let's look at. No, okay, we won't look at Corinne's.
Look at mine.
Yeah.
Look at Sarah Jane's.
Should we look at Sarah Jane's?
She's done her
Do you want to have a look at what you see if you've only got this?
Sarah Jane. Right, let's have a look at Sarah Jane. I'm going to show you Sarah Jane's Training Peaks account. Here we go, Sarah Jane. So if you go to where's dashboard? Oh, up here. Right at the top there, we've got a little dashboard icon. So if you click on the dashboard, you can say, "Oh dear, Sarah Jane, we're going tracking down there," but never mind. So, and that's the kind of thing. Sometimes you need to investigate it, because it may well be that, for example, Sarah Jane had some kind of double sessions going in, so the training load was getting a bit higher up here. But we'll have a look at that. Sarah Jane's going to get all. Sarah Jane's going to get all. What kind of scale is this over now? This is over 6 months. So, yeah. So it's worth keeping an eye on that. So what I'm talking about here is you should have this is fairly consistent. So if Sarah Jane had a big workout, like an error workout, you'd have a big spike here, and the blue line would suddenly shoot up. There'd be a big step. So you have to keep an eye out for things like that. But that looks fairly consistent. So the blue line, we kind of call it the fitness line. It's actually your training load. So it's if you look at the orange line and the pink line, so the orange line is like your training, what's the best way of explaining it? So yeah, so fitness. So I'm losing my train of thought here. So the pink line is your fatigue level. Okay, so, and as you can see, it mirrors the yellow line. The yellow line is your kind of training stress. So the amount of kind of training load that you've done. So Jane's had a good amount of training load there, and as a result, her fatigue has dropped. Okay, are we going this the wrong way around? Am I losing my train of thought here?
Is the blue one. The orange one is her form. So her form's improving because her fatigue level is going down.
Yeah, so okay, so I've got it the wrong way around. How can I get this wrong when I've been doing this for donkey's years? I don't know. I had a bang on the head 2 weeks ago. I'm blaming everything on that.
Still suffering from
yeah,
a bang on the head.
yeah. Okay, so Corinne's quite right. So the pink line is the training load.
Fatigue. Yeah,
fatigue. Yeah, so I look at it as the training load. So there's obviously more training going on there, and then the fatigue line is that kind of drops off. Where's that gone? Oh, here we go. Just dropped out. Hopefully it's still there. So it mirrors the work. So there's lots of work being done at this point here, and there's lots of the fatigue kind of line drops right down. So the lower this line gets, the more fatigue there is. And as you can see, coincided with this amount of work that's done here, the fitness line just tracks up there. Okay. And then the training volume is dropping off a little bit here. So we'd have to. So someone like this, Sarah Jane, would have to have a look and see what was happening during this period. And the fatigue line goes right up, so she's feeling super fresh at this point because she's not doing a huge amount of training by the looks. And then, of course, the fitness line does drop off. Now you have to take this fitness line with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because a big part of the equation that goes into this is training volume. Training time. So you could be training really, really hard, but doing short sessions, and you will only generate a fairly low amount of training stress score. So if you're doing lots of volume, you might be doing lots of easy volume, but because you're doing lots of volume, doing lots of training time, the actual blue line will start to track up. So you'll get more TSS score points, if that makes sense. So you do have to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But generally, as you go through a training program, the volume will be increasing slightly, the intensity will be increasing slightly as you go through the training phases. So the trend should generally be on the way up. Now, in terms of the commit squad program, the training load across the week is fairly level. Okay, so you will find that the blue line will stay fairly level. It won't rise a huge amount, or it might rise from the early days when you bring in your volume up to where the squad level training volume sits. If you started off not doing a huge amount of training, but once it kind of plateaus and you get into a few weeks of regular training at that level, then it will start to kind of plateau out. Okay, so that you have to be conscious of that. Don't expect it to keep on tracking up because you're doing the same amount of volume week after week. That's the nature of the commit squad program. It's a steady program which goes out through all the year to give you that kind of baseline of training sessions, if that makes sense, give you some structure. Corinne mentioned the more specific commit variations, so the standard, commit middle, commit long, then they're the ones which will actually take you through a bigger progression as you go towards race day. I hope that kind of makes sense. I had a bit of a pig's ear explaining, didn't I? But never mind.
This graph that Dave's showing you, just looked at the basic account. The actual graph with the blue lines on isn't in the basic version, the free version of Training Peaks. It's only in the premium version. You will get various of the graphs that are shown below on the basic version there. But if you've got any specific questions on TSS and training load, then drop them in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah. So Abby found this useful estimating TSS, especially if there's a tick glitch. Oh my god, a tech glitch. Yeah, okay. Well, that's in the comments on Facebook. What we'll do actually, Abby, is I'll have a look at that and we'll drop it into the comments on the actual this video when it gets uploaded and everything. We'll put it in the comments in there so people can have a look at that. Yeah, presumably it's an explanation about how to calculate and how to estimate your training stress scores. It can get a bit bogged down in it, but once you get your head around it, it's worth understanding it. Once you get your head around it, then it is fairly straightforward. Right, have we got anything else to got any more questions or anything?
There was a question from one of our athletes who's going on to a race-specific plan about whether there will be brick sessions in the plan.
Yeah.
In the Commit Squad program, we haven't got brick sessions at the moment, brick being combined bike and run session. But those who are on Commit Standard, Commit Middle and Commit Long, yes, when you go on to the race-specific program, there will be brick sessions in there. So they're coming. Fear not.
Yeah. And if you are on standard squad and you want to do brick sessions, simply just choose one of the bike sessions and just run off the bike. It's not in simple terms, all you're trying to do on the brick sessions a lot of the time is just get your body used to that changeover from bike to run. Sometimes people do too longer brick sessions, so very often it's just a case of getting your body used to it. If you're doing a more specific training program heading towards a particular event, then the bricks need to get a little bit more specific. But just generally, just get yourself used to running off the bike. So just pick any of the bike sessions, just go for 10 minutes. It's nice and easy off the bike and see how the legs feel, and just do that a few times, and you'll soon start to get used to it. Get rid of start improving the jelly legs a little bit.
And it does improve. The first few times you do it, your legs will scream at you when you get off the bike and try running. But once you've done it a few times, it does get a lot easier. So just keep practicing, and it'll make race day a whole lot easier.
Yeah. Okay. So it was Moira who was asking about the bricks, wasn't it? Is there anything else that we need to go through? Can't see anything obvious. Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of reiterate what Corinne said right at the start, really, we are going to be applying plans and catching up with things. When was the next block start? Monday.
Monday, yeah.
So next block starts on Monday. If you're on commit squad, which I think most of you guys will be, then that should be in straight away. We do apply the bikes and the runs together, and then the swims go on separately. So there may be a period of time where you get one without the other. Don't panic. Just give us some time. Your training should be in there for the Monday when it starts. If you do, however, there's been a couple of times we've got a few people on different plans at different times. So this is people that are on the race specific commits. You can occasionally get somebody who their training has been missed in the past. So just if you're fearful that it's you and that we've missed you out somehow, you've fallen through the gaps, then give us a message and we'll get straight onto that straight away. It does happen every now and again because we're human, but most of the time it's absolutely fine. Anything else? No. Okay. Any more questions from anybody? That's an interesting comment at the bottom there, isn't it? Yeah, we've got some gobbledygook coming through as well. Anything from Sarah Jane? Anything that we need to... Should you put the camera on Sarah Jane? No? Okay, all right. Okay, well, I hope you found that useful. Waffled on a little bit. I'm going to get a new brain, a new head fitted for next time. But apart from that, I think we're done. Yeah? All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Speak soon. Bye-bye.